Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another paper crafting video tutorial. Today I am going to be sharing a couple of layered love theme cards with the Papertrey Inc. December 2023 release products. We're going to start with our Glimmer hot foil machine and the beautiful Ornamental Swirl hot foil plate. I'm taking some of this opal foil and we are going to be foiling some pastel pink cardstock for the background of our card. Foiling the opal foil on the pastel pink is going to give a very light effect. It's not going to be super bold or in your face or anything like that. But I love how this looks. So I'm going to peel that off. And you can kind of see the shimmer and shine of that foiling on the pink. Super pretty. Now, a lot of times when I am foiling or doing anything like this where there's a few steps involved, I guess I want to say, I like to make more than one. And these products are so beautiful that I went ahead and decided to do a couple at the same time. So I went ahead and created two of the Ornamental Swirl backgrounds. Next, we're going to take the Psalm Reflections December hot foil plate, and this time we are foiling this design on some cream cardstock. This is just like a little cream off color. It's barely not white, barely not ivory. Now, I did have some overfoil, and I was a bit afraid that that would happen with this. I do find the best results come with some Hammermill smooth white cardstock, but I really wanted to use this cream. Now, no worries. I'm going to go ahead and use that piece. I'm going to use both of these. It did overfoil both times. And I'm simply going to take this mono eraser and I am going to erase the foil. I want to make sure and only erase the area that I don't want. I do like to take a kind of stiff dry paintbrush first and see if I can flake off any of that. But then I am being pretty aggressive in erasing what I don't want. Now, there may be a little bit left over here. That is okay. I am going to mostly be covering up this frame, so it's okay. There is a coordinating Psalm Reflections December die. I love that. And I am going to die cut that shape from my cream cardstock. Now I want to save that cream cardstock because it's going to be perfect to stamp all of the elements for my cards. We are going to go ahead first and finish our backgrounds so they can be drying while we stamp all of the components here in a minute. Using a glass mat, I am taking some plastic flamingo Lawn Fawn ink and I am going to just carefully go around the corners of my panel to add a little bit of shading and added interest to these pink backgrounds. Now you can see that the opal foiling is rather hard to see, at least here on camera. In the photos it shows up more. In there you can kind of see with my hand out of the way, you can see it a little better. I am buffing away any of that ink that might be on top of the foiling. Oh my goodness, it's so pretty. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other background. Now, once I have both of my backgrounds with a little bit of edge shading, I'm going to place those in a plastic splatter box, or you can use a cardboard box or anything that you like to do to contain your spatter. And I will grab some white gouache and a little bit of water to water it down and a small paintbrush, and I'm adding a tiny bit of spatter to these backgrounds. Now I like to add just a little additional interest. You could definitely eliminate this step if that is not your thing. And I only did a tiny little bit, and then I'm going to do both of these at the same time. Once I have the coverage that I like for this, I will then go ahead and set these backgrounds aside to completely dry while I work on stamping the images for the rest of the card. For the rest of the card design, we will be using some images from the With All My Heart stamp set. That's where our greeting, no, that's where our hearts are coming from. And then from the Forever and Always stamp set, that is where our sentiments are coming from today. I love these as they are layering stamp sets. I think I probably mention this each month when I am sharing my Papertrey ink projects with you, that one of the things I love about Papertrey ink is no coloring. We are getting our color by stamp layering. Now remember I said I used the leftover cream cardstock, the edges from where we foiled our Psalm Reflection, and it's going to be enough room on these two sheets to get everything we need for these two cards. I love that, as I feel like there is no waste with this. I also wanted to stamp my images on the cream cardstock as opposed to a white, because I felt like the background would blend into the frame that we foiled earlier, and it's not going to be such a distinct difference that I used a different cardstock, because of course I didn't. The first layer of this large heart was stamped with Lawn Fawn Ballet Slippers ink. The second layer is stamped with plastic flamingo ink. I am using my Lawn Fawn inks again. I have really been addicted to using them lately. I love the colors and the results, especially the pinks and reds. I think I mention this every time I use this red, but Lobster Red from Lawn Fawn is my very favorite red ink, and it turns out perfectly. For the large heart, there is actually several steps. I want to say that there is 3 steps, I think, maybe 4. Oh, I can't remember. We'll see. So there's the base flower, then there is the flower centers and the little flowers around it. Then we are doing the leaves. I am stamping those in Minty Fresh. And I want to make sure and do both of them at the same time. Is that Minty Fresh? It does not look like it, but perhaps. And then there are some flower centers, and those will be stamped with Lobster. So a light pink, a medium pink, and then the red. Then we're going to stamp some additional hearts. I love this little dotted outline, and then another floral. So the large floral we're going to leave as is on our card. The medium heart floral, we are going to layer the additional hearts on top. You definitely don't have to. You could scatter those throughout your card. You could create backgrounds with these. You could do a border with these. So many fun ways to use this stamp set. This time I'm using Lobster ink to stamp both of these, the outline and the red flowers. So we're going to do this for both of these images for both cards. And then we are going to fill in with the layering stamp for this one. And again, this is going to be some little leaves, but this time I will stamp them with Clover ink. I have used only 5 colors of ink for this card. 2 pinks, a red, and 2 greens. One is a minty green and one is more of a bright green, but I like Clover and Minty Fresh together. Look how cute that is. Love that. I don't know about you guys, but if you've been here a while, you know that I love hearts. Then the little solid heart is stamped with Ballet Slippers. We're going to move on to leaves next and finally finish with some swirls. I will say that I didn't know if I would use the swirls right off the bat, but as I die cut and laid everything out, I really felt like we could incorporate some of them, and I'm so glad that I did because I love how they turned out. Now, this leaf image is a solid die, it can be a little tricky. So what I suggest is maybe die cutting the leaf first and then stamping it. You'll notice that I stamped the base color, but before I ever go and stamp the layering, I am going to die cut this leaf so that I can get the leaf, or the stem, pardon me, lined up perfectly, and I'm not like wasting any time with that. So I looked at it and I thought, you know, sometimes that is just the recipe for disaster for me. So I'm going to grab my wire snips and I'm going to clip out that image. We're going to die cut this, and then we will go ahead and stamp the rest of this image, or the layering part of this image. There is this group of leaves like this, and then there's a single leaf, and I am going to stamp that single leaf 4 times, 2 per card. I love just inlaying that back into the design. Now, if you've watched any of my videos where I feature Papertrey ink before, you'll know that a lot of times, like I'm doing here on the screen, when I am stamping larger images, I will use my Misty. And at a certain point, with some of the smaller things, I revert back to my old trusty reliable acrylic blocks. And it's not because the Misty wouldn't work, it would work perfectly. It's mostly a laziness factor on my part, where I want to quickly and easily be able to stamp those. Next, you can see that I have die cut the components that I know I'm going to use off camera. Look how gorgeous they are. And I have grabbed a phrase from the from the Forever and Always stamp set, and we are going to stamp that along the bottom edge of this frame, the Psalm Reflections December frame. Now, I could have stamped the same phrase on both of these backgrounds, but I ultimately decided to just choose a couple of different ones, even though everything else about the cards is exactly the same. One of them is more of an anniversary themed card. I thought this would work perfectly for my parents' anniversary this year. And then the other one is more of maybe a wedding or an engagement or something of that nature type of card, or just a love card. So I just switched that up, but same basic idea. I'm stamping that little phrase with Ballet Slippers pink ink down at the bottom. It is going to be pretty nice and light, but I absolutely love how it looks on the finished card. The love also is a solid die. I did not realize that when I stamped it, but we are going to make this work. Now, the love is also from the Forever and Always stamp set, and I'm stamping this with lobster red ink. I love how this love word looks. I don't know about you guys, but I could see using that on all kinds of designs. Really, really excited about this. I think it is phenomenal. So let's go ahead and die cut all the rest of my images. You can see that I need to die cut all the rest of these from the other sheet, and I will show you how I end up working it out so I don't have to restamp the word love at all. If at all possible, I try not to restamp things, even if I haven't looked at the die before I've stamped it. A lot of times they are outlines, but every once in a while you will get one that is solid. So I'm going to snip that out, and I'm going to go die cut that from the other scrap piece of cream cardstock. Once I have die cut that, I can then use that one. I can just stamp that one here in a minute, but I can use this as a guide, and I only snipped a bit of it, but it really works great if you snip off that whole upper corner, and I'm going to show you that. And that's going to allow me to line up my die perfectly. It took me a minute to figure this out, but once I get it figured out, oh my goodness, game changer. I love when I can figure out something like this. I've done this many different ways over the years because this is not the first time this has happened, but this worked great. So what I'm going to do, I actually don't need that top part. I don't know why I kept trying to use that, but I left it in here so you could see me being fiddly. and then I pressed that too hard and I moved everything. Let's just line up the bottom, and then we can slide our die in just like that, remove that piece, and run it through the die cutting machine. And we are going to have a perfect result here. So let's go ahead and get all of our pieces and then put everything together. So I have sped up the video just a little bit because from now on, it's really repetition. Die cutting the rest of these images. I will stamp and die cut some of the swirls. I think maybe I use the Misty. I can't remember if I end up using the Misty for that or not, or I just use my acrylic block. There are lots of different swirls in this With All My Heart stamp set, and they add so much to the design. I really like them. I hope you guys try them out too when you get your stamp sets at home. But I was able to use just these scraps of paper. I didn't have to go pull any additional paper out, which I think is kind of amazing. And I just felt like I wasn't wasting anything, which is always awesome. So extra leaves, and you can see that, as always, at a certain point, I really just start using my acrylic block as I don't want to line everything up in my Misty. For the swirls, we're going to use some lobster, some ballet slippers, and I think those are the only two pink and red colors I used for those items. And then, of course, die cutting all of these. Now, to put it all together, we are going to grab some foam adhesive, as I like to do. That always adds a wonderful little bit of depth and dimension. Not only are we going to pop up the background label for our card, I'm using some long foam adhesive strips from Simon Says Stamp from the foam roll, but we are going to use foam adhesive squares back behind the hearts and leaves, and then we will glue the swirls directly to our card. So once I have my foam adhesive on the label, we're going to center that in that background panel with the ornamental swirl. We're going to pop up our large heart right in the center of the design. We're going to glue down the word love using some liquid adhesive up at the top of this label. Then we're going to glue the two smaller hearts to the center of the medium-sized floral heart. You could also scatter those if you wanted to, or stamp additional hearts. I'm going to put foam adhesive only along the right side where it overlaps the large heart. I don't want extra foam. We're going to place some foam underneath the leaves. I've got the group of 2 leaves on the left and 2 individual leaves over here on the right. We'll tuck in the swirls. We'll add the additional little heart. I did stamp an extra little red heart down to put at the bottom. Pop it up with foam, and our cards are all finished. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these layered love-themed cards with the Papertrey Ink December 2023 release. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind-the-scenes content. Top-tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new paper crafting video or I go live. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.